I hated my mother my entire life for leaving us when I was 2 years old. But recently, I reached out to her through social media, and she told me the whole truth about my dad. I grew up thinking my mother had abandoned us. That's what I was always told. They said she packed her things and left us when I turned 2. I grew up with hatred and resentment toward her, mostly because I saw how my dad worked day and night, just to make ends meet. I hated that. In reality, it was my grandma who basically raised me. When I asked about my mom, Grandma would describe her as a spiteful, vengeful, twisted, and selfish woman. I felt like I had every right to be angry and hate her. That's what my family told me, and I had no reason not to believe them. A few weeks ago, I found my mom on social media while I was staying at my girlfriend's place, and I was absolutely furious. She was living her best life, working as a chef, maybe even an executive chef at a Michelin-starred restaurant, traveling, living in a huge apartment, and apparently married to some handsome guy. In a rage, I messaged her directly, accusing her of leaving me for a carefree life and telling her that karma would catch up with her. She read the message, of course, but instead of yelling back, she simply suggested we meet, saying I had every right to express my anger to her face. I was shocked. My dad had always insisted she never took responsibility for her actions. I agreed to meet her and didn't tell anyone. She invited me to this amazing restaurant and even booked me an Uber. At first, it was super awkward. I kept lashing out at her. I was furious, even cried a little. She just sat there and listened silently. Then I asked her why she left me. And she said, "Do you really want the truth? It's unpleasant, and you probably won't like it. I'm okay being the villain in your mind and staying out of your life." I insisted, and then she told me everything. She said she met my dad shortly before graduating from college. A few months into their relationship, my dad told her he was being evicted because the landlord's relatives needed the apartment. She offered to let him stay with her until he found a new place. Months passed, and he did nothing. Then she was offered a job in another country. She told him he could either stay in her place or go with her. A huge fight broke out. She said she wasn't ready for the level of commitment he wanted, that they had very different goals in life. And no matter how much she loved him, they weren't compatible. They kept living together, and at some point, she found out she was pregnant. She honestly admitted to me that she considered not keeping the baby. She didn't feel ready to be a mother at 22. She didn't feel maternal at all. She was already battling depression and was later diagnosed with ADHD. My dad convinced her to keep the baby, saying he had just as much of a right to me, that he would fight for custody because I was his child too. So she gave birth to me. She said it was incredibly hard after I was born. Dad kept dragging out legal proceedings and refused to move out. She said that even though she loved me and sometimes felt genuine joy, it was overshadowed by intense bouts of depression. She was scared she might hurt me. She even showed me court documents from that time to prove it. Eventually, she became so desperate that she agreed to stay with my dad if he took primary responsibility for raising me. He agreed, but Hafa said everything. Mom said things got so bad that she tried to hurt herself around my 2nd birthday after a brutal argument in which Dad admitted he had tampered with her birth control on purpose. She showed me the paperwork. From her 72-hour involuntary hospitalization and the legal documents declaring her unfit to parent, I was sick to my stomach hearing all this. I wouldn't have believed her if she hadn't brought so much proof. Then she asked me, "What did you mean in that message when you said you were struggling financially?" I told her we weren't exactly well off and that I was having trouble saving money to go to university in another city. She was shocked and asked, "What is your dad doing with the monthly payments I send?" I told her we never received any money. Then she pulled out another stack of documents. Guys, she's been paying child support every single month, almost $3,000. By court order, she's required to pay me $1,500. But she doubled the amount on her own. She doesn't even have to, but she wants to. She was really worried and said she'd contact her lawyers immediately to start sending the payments directly to me. In the end, she apologized to me. She was deeply sorry that I had to go through all of that. Sorry she wasn't stronger. Sorry she let me grow up in those conditions. She cried. I cried. Then she said she'd follow up about the payments, and that it was up to me if I wanted to see her again. That she couldn't be the mother I once wanted, but she could at least support me in every way I needed. Now did I hug her. I cried. She cried. They packed me food to go, and she ordered me another Uber. When I got home, Dad wasn't there. I went straight to bed, and the next morning I left home and have been staying with my girlfriend since. My whole life was a lie. Update 1. My life keeps falling apart. I found out that my mom actually never abandoned me. She was declared unfit to be a parent due to her mental health, and my father tricked her into getting pregnant. After yesterday's post, I started digging deeper, because now I don't trust my father at all. I found records of domestic violence my father committed against my mom. He was charged, but either didn't go to jail or got a very lenient sentence. It happened when I was about 2 years old, shortly after my mom was hospitalized. I also found a restraining order she filed against him. Turns out, things were much worse than she had told me. Not only did he emotionally abuse her, he physically beat her too. Now I find him absolutely disgusting. I just want to scream. I'm still living at my girlfriend's place. My dad keeps calling, asking why I haven't been home for so long. I made up an excuse, told him my girlfriend's family is going through a personal issue. After the talk with my mom, I wanted to confront him directly. But now, I don't feel safe. Any advice? Before we go on, I'd like to ask you to leave your suggestions in the comments for the author. Do you have any advice for him? I'd personally suggest he call his father first, just to test the waters. See how rational he is. Then maybe involve his mother in the process, and hopefully the situation would reach some kind of resolution. Just saying your girlfriend's family has problems, that can't go on forever. Let's see what happens next. Update 2. The past few weeks turned my life upside down. In short, I learned my mother didn't abandon me. She was ruled unfit to parent because of her mental health struggles. She's been paying my father $3,000 a month in child support. $1,500 was court-ordered, and the other half she paid voluntarily. I also found legal documents confirming my dad had been charged multiple times for beating my mom. After staying with my girlfriend for a while, I decided to briefly return home to grab my documents and other important stuff. My dad was home. We talked a little. I asked him, by the way, did mom ever pay you child support? He rolled his eyes and went on a rant about how the courts always side with mothers, how he was told not to expect anything from her, and so on. He retold that old story about begging her for school supply money and her refusing to help. I know that's a lie. My mom has detailed records of every payment she ever sent him. Every month since she got a stable job, for over 15 years, she sent him money. First $400, then $600, then $1,000. And eventually $3,000. He kept whining about how hard it had been, saying he regretted not pushing her for more, claiming the court never helped him, and that even now we are barely scraping by from paycheck to paycheck. It was surreal. After he left the room, I snooped around and found a wad of cash in his sock drawer. Over $5,000. I have access to the family account. Those $3,000 monthly payments never showed up there. I also checked for any big withdrawals over $100 that could explain the cash, but nothing. And the bills were all in hundreds. It's only getting worse. I feel disgusting. I can't even put it into words. Now I have all the documents. And I messaged my mom, asking if we could meet again. Should I just cut my dad off completely? Update 3. Before I started sharing my story here, I didn't realize how abnormal my relationship with my dad was. I haven't mentioned much about his behavior, but here's a quick summary. He made me his personal accountant from early childhood. I had to keep track of our expenses and everything else. Many times, I had panic attacks because we couldn't make it to the end of the month with what was left in the account. He would yell at me whenever I asked to go anywhere, like the movies, because we don't have money for that. And when he did let me go out, it always came with an endless list of conditions. Let's take the movie example again. I would ask in advance, and he'd say, fine, but only if you clean the entire house, take grandma to the doctor, pick up some things, cook dinner, and a bunch of other stuff. And if I failed to do even one small thing, like not taking out the trash, he'd start a fight and guilt trip me until I stayed home. He constantly told me I was a piece of shit. Said I'd never survive in college. That I wasn't capable of doing anything. That I had no talent. He was extremely short-tempered. Once, in the car, I joked about supporting a different football team that day, and he kicked me out right in the middle of the road. I had to walk home. There are tons of examples like that. I used to think it was my fault, or that maybe this was just how all dads acted. But let's be honest, this is not normal. So what's happening now? I reached out to my mom again after learning all this. I dumped all the new information on her. She admitted things were indeed very bad back then and that she had feared for her life. Turns out, my dad had friends in law enforcement who watch her every move and made her life hell. They fined her for tiny things, stopped her on the street for random checks, and tried everything they could to intimidate her or dig up dirt on her. My dad gave her an ultimatum. Either she surrendered without a fight, or he'd make her life. And mine, a living hell. My mom told me he started hitting her right after I was born, as early as the first week after giving birth. So when he laid down that ultimatum, she felt completely hopeless and attempted to harm herself. She failed. After being discharged, my dad filed for full custody, and since she'd already been ruled unfit to parent due to her mental health, he easily got it. She said the court treated her really harshly. About a year later, she tried to gain visitation rights. She contacted my dad, and he invited her over. Said she could be part of my life. If she got back together with him, she refused. A fight broke out. That night, he beat her again, so severely that she ended up in the hospital. When the staff saw her injuries, they were legally obligated to report it. Eventually, my dad was sentenced to a year in prison, but he served only 3 months. That time, my grandma had temporary custody of me. When Dad got out, he regained full custody. I was able to confirm all of this by contacting my aunt, MIA, who hadn't spoken to the family in over 10 years. Aunt MIA had documented everything my mom had been through. She photographed her bruises, recorded my dad yelling at her, threatening her. She told me she had testified against him in court and could confirm every word my mom said, because he treated her the same way. She insisted on showing me the photos and playing the recordings. First, she was hesitant, but part of me didn't want to believe this was all true. So yeah, my dad is a goddamn monster. I told my mom everything I discovered about the money. She said that legally, we couldn't really do anything. But she spoke to her lawyer. And since I'm now 18, she started the process to redirect the child support payments directly to me. Until that's finalized, she'll be sending me $1,000 a month. Once it's all processed, I'll start receiving the full amount. She also agreed to cover my university entrance fee, the deposit, and the first month's rent, so I can become as independent as possible. I only submitted my application a few weeks ago. So I'm expecting news by September at the latest. We decided it wouldn't be safe for either of us to confront my dad directly. So we told him my girlfriend's parents invited me on a vacation. I talked to her and her parents. They didn't even hesitate, immediately agreed to help. Now they know everything and are supporting me 100%. My mom and her parents paid for a 2-week trip to a neighboring country, where they have a summer house. I told my dad about the trip, and he said, if her parents are paying, fine. But added that before I leave, I had to help him with a million chores. So I'm already sensing a fight brewing. At least I've managed to collect all the important documents and open a bank account, thanks to my aunt's help. What's next? Well, on Thursday I officially leave for 2 weeks, and I pray that things resolve while I'm gone. I'm taking everything important with me just in case things suddenly go downhill. Either way, it's been a really heavy time. So please, don't message me asking for updates. I'll write more when I feel ready. Update 4. Everything went to hell really fast. On Wednesday night, the day before I was supposed to leave, my dad blew up at me because I didn't take his car in for an oil change. He started calling me names, told me I was selfish and ungrateful, said he raised me better than this. Then he brought in my grandma, and she joined in, saying how disappointed they both were in me. That I clearly wasn't mature enough for a vacation, let alone moving out for university. They didn't let me sleep until 4 a.m., calling it a family meeting, which was really just a long session of emotional abuse, blaming me for everything I'd ever done wrong in life, and honestly, I was completely crushed. I cried. I felt awful. Thankfully, my girlfriend called because I wasn't answering her messages. She helped me pack all my things while my dad was sleeping. I left without saying goodbye. Around 1 p.m., my dad texted me like nothing had happened. The 2 weeks went by really fast. I got a letter. I was accepted into university with a great political science program. I accepted the offer and applied for a dorm spot, and then everything exploded. My mom stopped sending the second half of the support money to my dad. She began paying only the court-ordered amount. My dad completely lost it. He started calling me, yelling that I needed to come home immediately. Then he'd call crying, saying that my bitch of a mother had come back into our lives and was taking him to court. That now we didn't have money to pay the mortgage. I called my mom and asked if she really was suing him. She said no, She had simply filed to have the child support payment sent directly to me instead of through him. And the court had approved it. Then my grandma started messaging me, saying I needed to come back home right away because my dad had a heart attack that I went back, and the house was a disaster. Empty beer cans, hard liquor, cigarettes everywhere. For everyone who guessed my dad was spending the money on substances and partying, congratulations. You were right. Turns out, right after I left, he threw a huge party and invited all his friends, the ones he met at upscale bars. I found out from a woman who was with him at the hospital. His girlfriend, apparently. She didn't even know I existed. She kept calling our house his vacation home. I asked her a few questions, and she answered honestly. Turns out, she's actually really sweet, but now she's disappointed in him too. She learned he had lied to her. My dad was taking those $3,000 and almost entirely blowing them on his successful man image, buying expensive clothes, drinking in fancy hotel bars, taking her and her friends to luxury restaurants and clubs. She didn't say it outright, but hinted they were regularly using at those parties, including the one where he overdosed. I thanked her and told her that money wasn't his, and that he lied to her. She stayed with us until my dad regained consciousness and we brought him back home. After that, she broke up with him. Then I told him straight up, I was leaving. He lost it. Hit me. Broke my nose. I was terrified. He wasn't even fully recovered. The hospital. I told the nurse what had happened. The police were called the next day. My mom took me in immediately. She's helping with all the legal stuff regarding my dad. She also helped me move to another city. It all happened very, very fast. My girlfriend is still with me, because honestly, I'm scared. I blocked my dad, but I keep getting threatening messages from him anyway. So yeah, it's both good and horrible edited. Let me answer some frequently asked questions. Why didn't your mom take you earlier if she knew your dad was abusive? I already explained this in previous posts, but in short, she lost custody due to her mental health. Things only got worse from there. Dad had cop friends and judges in our backwater town who were incredibly biased against women. How did you find all those documents so easily? I didn't. I searched everything myself. I contacted Aunt MIA and insisted she show me everything she had. None of this fell into my lap. I found every document on my own. These weren't public files. This was hard work, not luck. If you're 18, why is your mom still paying child support? Where we live, child support, including state assistance, is paid until the end of university or until the child turns 25, whichever comes first. Are you planning to sue your father to recover the child support money? No. It wouldn't help. Proving that he blew it all would be extremely difficult. And in the end, I had food, clothes, shelter, heat, electricity, internet, and water. It would take a ton of time and bring nothing but revenge. Mom is still afraid of him. And honestly, I'm not eager to see him again either. We are filing for a restraining order and documenting every message and attempt he makes to contact me. Someone suggested checking if he's opening loans or credit cards in my name. We are already working on securing that. How come your mom had a lawyer ready? She didn't. My first post came out over a month ago. After our meeting, she reached out to a lawyer to redirect the payments to me. That lawyer referred her to another firm, which is now handling our case. What's going on with university? I'm still waiting for dorm placement. For now, I'm living with my girlfriend in a rented apartment through Airbnb. Classes start in October, not next week. And no, I don't live in the US. Update 5. Hi everyone. Just a short update. I'm the author's girlfriend. Alex's father attacked him on September 19th. He was on the brink of death. Yesterday, he was finally moved from the ICU to a regular hospital room. Legal proceedings against his father have already begun, so I can't share any details. I'll update you again if anything changes in Alex's condition. Update 6. My father died in the middle of the court process. He brutally attacked me because I was planning to leave, and if I left, the child support payments would stop, the ones he was spending on women and his lavish lifestyle. Last year, my world fell apart when I found out that my mom never abandoned. My dad abused her and made sure she could never take me away. He turned my life into a complete nightmare. Over the past few months, I've been documenting everything here in detail. After I was discharged from the hospital, my mom and I hired 2 incredible lawyers. One took on the assault case. The other, the financial abuse case. The child support case moved quickly. He was ordered to return 50% of the funds he had received over the last 3 years, without additional penalties. but the assault case got complicated. It turned out that he planned to claim temporary insanity to avoid responsibility. He even told his girlfriend about this plan. Thankfully, she turned out to be a decent person and reported it to the police. The charges were reclassified as attempted murder after she left him. He fell into debt. A harsh prison sentence loomed ahead, and he had no more money to bail himself out. He took his own life on a Friday. I spent the entire week in a daze, but today it finally hit me. I'm free. I don't have to look over my shoulder anymore. I no longer flinch at the sound of footsteps. I no longer get anxious when I check my phone. I'm free. Finally free. Well, that's all. Write your opinion in the comments. Watch our previous video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if, for some reason, you haven't done so yet. And good luck to you.